I do like to do the intros. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Bussin with the Boys Spring Tour. We are with Coach Day at the Ohio State University. It pains me to say that, but before we go into it, we need to talk about Chevrolet. Chevrolet is a trusted company that has been innovating for the past 100 years. Up till now, most electric vehicles have been either too expensive, too small, or too limited in capabilities for most people. Chevrolet is committed to making EVs available for all Americans. There is a growing network of public charging stations. There are over 1,900 certified Chevy EV dealerships. Chevy is a convenient way to research and shop EVs online. EVs for everyone, everywhere. I saw when I started to mess up a little bit, he kind of looked up at me, and that gave me some scaries.
Oh, really?
You know, the boy doesn't read well.
Honestly, like I was reading something and I kind of just did my whole pan off to the side and think about something real. I didn't even hear what the heck.
And it's crazy. It goes back to like maybe the eyes aren't always on me.
Yeah.
You know, maybe other people are.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Well, hey, we're here. We finally did it, Coach Day. Thank you for joining us. Look, I'm sitting in between these guys for a couple different reasons. One, Taylor likes to sit on the outside.
I do like to.
Two, we got a Michigan boy and an Ohio State boy over here. I feel like there might be a fun question. There might be something that you want to ask because I feel like we have to kick this thing off with some sense of the rivalry that happens, that takes place.
Yeah, I got a couple questions for sure. I think one of the first questions I'll go with is, do you feel happy that the University of Michigan has won the last two? And the reason why I ask that is because...
The rhetorical question out of the
it's not rhetorical. We, Michigan, when I was at Michigan, we barely won once. And you guys have dominated the 10s. You guys dominated us in the 2000s. And it's kind of nice to get the rivalry back where it's going. So I'm kind of leading you into a possibility of giving Michigan some flowers here. Are you happy that Michigan's won the last two games?
I mean, I know you're coming out with that question. I can see you coming on the side door with that one. I get you. I see where you're coming at. Because, this is year 7 for me, and this is, we played that game 5 times and lost the last 2, and it hurts. I mean, quite honestly, you know how much it means to so many people, in both states. And so, when I first had my first press conference, the first thing I said was that, you got to win that game. That's the number one thing, most important thing. And when you don't do that, it hurts. It hurts for 365 days. And so it has for the last 2 years, And so, yeah, I mean, it's something that we think about every single day. But that's what makes the rivalry great, And I'm certainly, when you play the rivalries back and forth as well. So it's something we think about all the time.
The rivalry is bigger than ever now because Michigan finally has a couple of W's in the column. You needed that. Otherwise, it was truly turning into a game. It's like,
we certainly didn't need that, but yeah.
What's that?
We didn't need that, but
no, you guys didn't need that, but we definitely didn't need that. Like,
it stinks being on the wrong side of it. Like as a fan of the game, it stinks being on the wrong side of it. But there is like a the game is like the game. It's kind of
the
like
game again a little bit.
I know it's like, I'm excited that the game is back, but obviously you want to come.
And if roles were reversed too, like let's say Michigan was dominating for that long and you guys won the last 2, obviously as a former player, I'd be upset. But I've been out of it for so long that I've zoomed out and been able to be like, okay, thank God we got a rivalry again. I mean, that is the kind of maybe a good approach for Ohio State because like you guys have dominated for so long to kind of be like, well, let's give them some flowers here.
Well, it's the first thing that when you come here as a recruit and you walk right in here and you go look at the rivalry video, it's one of the first things you have to do when you're a coach here is understand the rivalry, and what it means. And so yeah, I mean, it's everything and goes back a long time, right? I mean, think about all the different games and all the different coaches and teams that have come through and it means so much. And that's why, when you go through the hallways here, you see all the different teams. And one of the first things you ask is, what was your record in the game?
The facilities, by the way, are incredible.
Yeah, they're really nice.
Really incredible. Asking about that game, because you guys are a hell of a team year in and year out. And when you have it be that close at halftime and then the second half goes the way it does, what's the messaging after that game when you reflect back on it? Like, what were some things that I'm sure you've probably already talked about in press conferences, but also in the same question, what is your messaging to get them boys ready for Georgia? Because you guys you busted your ass that game too. Obviously, didn't come out of it the way you wanted, but still for them guys to come out and perform the way they did after you take a loss to Michigan and stuff like that, I just think it also speaks to like getting their head back right and everything else. So
yeah, I mean, just a range of emotions. We think about the way that weekend went down, and then that week following, and then we get selected for the CFP, and all of a sudden, there's life again, life in the facility, and then we just went about the business of getting after it all the way to the bowl game. I think it was like 1,500 snaps during bowl practice. I mean, we got after it. Bowl practice was really it was violent. And we prepared to play in that game. And I think when you think about those two games in particular, you could probably grab out in those two games alone 10 plays that cost us both of those games. And like you said, you look at the game, you look at the scoreboard at different times of the game, and you can just look at really 5 plays in each game that cost you. So one of the things we've been talking about during our off season, our 8 weeks leading up to spring practice, now we're into the third week of spring practice, is you just don't know when that play is going to come into play. And as you guys know, you played the game. You could play 70 great snaps, but if 5 of those don't go your way, it can cost you the game. And that's when you're playing matchup games, that's what happens. We got to own that. And so you don't know when that play is going to come. You don't know when that day is going to come. So we need to be consistent in our off season. We need to be there every day and just find those plays on a daily basis. And as we go into spring practice, it's the same way.
When you're sitting at 5, you're watching the Big Ten Championship, all the championship games happen, you see USC lose. You're probably thinking, okay, we're going to make it in this college football playoff. When, before that time, and when you guys officially made it in, knowing you're going to be the 4 seed, or you guys went to the 3 seed, right? How did it work?
Yeah, so we were the 4.
You guys were the 4.
Yeah, so we played Georgia.
Was there a part of you that wanted Michigan again right away? Or would it have been better to see a national champion?
Yeah, so I remember that day, leading that week leading up to it, I think it was around Tuesday. We got together, and by the time Wednesday came, it was like, all right, we got to stop feeling sorry for ourselves. We got to move on, because those couple of days were awful following the game. And so we brought everybody in, and we said, guys, we have to believe that there's going to be something that happens over the weekend that allows us an opportunity to play in the CFP, and so we can't let this week just go by. So I said to the guys, somebody's going to lose here, and we're going to be in. So we have to be ready when that happens. So we went about practicing on Wednesday and Thursday leading up to that weekend. And then when it happened, there was just a lot of life injected into the whole facility. And we really didn't care. We just wanted an opportunity to play because, like I said, we were on life support there for a week. And we just wanted life again. We wanted an opportunity to play because last year, we felt like we could play with anybody in the country and beat anybody in the country. And, it didn't work out that way, but that's kind of how it all went down.
You guys definitely are that team with a level of prestige, and you've gotten to the point where it's truly a factory, especially in the skill position category. You guys as wide receivers, it seems like every year you have like a sophomore that's like the best wide receiver in the country, and it just keeps getting better and better. Like from a recruiting standpoint, how do you keep that consistency going at a place like this? Like, I mean, there's a whole bunch, like the college football landscape is changing.
Keep rooms together. And keep rooms together. You got guys who
especially
might have
with all the
to
transfer portal. Yeah.
Right.
It's a wild deal because it's hard to recruit when recruiting is national now. It's not like people are just recruiting regions. The only people that still recruit regionally is Texas, because they're in the state of Texas, but like you have to recruit against everybody. You have to recruit against schools like that are in nice tropical areas.
And it's year round. It's
year
not
round.
You recruit somebody here and they're here.
How do you keep that consistency level going?
I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. I think when you look at Ohio State, 500,000 alumni, and just the power of the brand of Ohio State, we're able to recruit nationally. And so our first priority is the state of Ohio and the Midwest, But when you look at our roster, we have guys, like you said, from Hawaii, California, Seattle, Texas, Florida, throughout the country. There's Buckeyes everywhere throughout the United States. And so we're able to have an impact throughout the country. So that's good. Our foundation is here in Ohio, and that's always going to be that way. But we want to go recruit guys who want to be elite. So although there's people from all different parts of the country with different backgrounds, we want people who think big here at Ohio State. So like you said, a loaded wide receiver room, a loaded D-line room, offensive line room. Sometimes, when teams recruit against us, they have a loaded room. Why would you go there? You come over here and play. Well, we're recruiting you because we think you can play. And if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And I think that's got to be the mentality, and it has been. Because, guys come here and they want to compete every day. And when you're going against really good players every day, that's how you get better. So, like, for instance, one of our defensive ends, who's here now, Kenyatta Jackson, he was on a scout team last year. He's from South Florida, Chaminade-Madonna High School. Every day in practice, he went up against Paris Johnson. And when they got done after practice, they'd sit over in the bench and they'd talk about what went on that day. And Paris kind of put him under his wing and talked to him about that. I'm willing to bet that when Kenyatta is all said and done and he moves on, he's going to do the same thing for somebody else because he was going against a really good player every day in practice. And that's the idea, is that, JT was going against DeJuan Jones last year. And, it's not just the 12 regular season games. It's every day in practice you're getting better. And that's a big part of our development.
I want to talk about you for a second and ask kind of about your philosophies or things you've picked up along the way, because you grew up in New Hampshire, which is barely, I don't even know if it's a state anymore in the United States. You went to school there as well.
He's just saying it's small. New Hampshire.
You went to New Hampshire there as well. And hey, obviously some flowers here. Coach was a Gatorade Player of the Year his senior year, but there's been a lot of adversity along the way. You had mentioned your father passed away when you were 9 years old. You go on and you play college ball with Chip Kelly. You're a Gatorade Player of the Year. You cut your teeth in the game as a GA for 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, which we've been around. We've seen the GA life. Like, that's not an easy life. You're putting about 15 years worth of work before you become a head coach. What are some philosophies that you've picked up along the way that's kind of molded you? And maybe there's a coach or somebody that could be listening that might not have known that they influenced you in such a way, but kind of talk about your philosophies and kind of overcoming a lot of those adversities.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is like adversity, are tests along the way, and you can do one of three things. It can either crumble you, you can get through it, or it can make you stronger. And adversity's coming somewhere along the way. And, we just had someone speak to the team the other day, and I thought it was really, really good what he said. He said that, finding balance in your life is building high ground for hard times. And
that's hard.
Yeah, it's really cool because and the way you do that is by investing your faith, family, and friends. And so adversity makes you stronger if you allow it to. And so we're all going to face adversity along the way. And I think for me, if I didn't lose my father at a young age, I don't know if I'd be in the position I'm in right now, because, it just had that, chip on my shoulder growing up and wanted to prove a lot of people wrong and prove a lot of people right. And I had a lot of great mentors along the way. And I think that's a big part of this profession, is that you don't really go to school to become a college football coach. Now, when I got recruited, Chip Kelly and I sat down and he said, "What do you want to do after you're done playing?" And I studied business administration, but I told him I wanted to coach. And he said, "Well, I got you." And he did. I coached with him in the NFL. I coached with him in college. And, the same thing with Urban Meyer. He took me along the way and certainly gave me an unbelievable opportunity here at Ohio State. I think a big part of this profession is apprenticeship, but there's a lot of sacrifice that goes along the way. And when you grow up in New Hampshire, like you said, a small state,
that little joke.
Yeah, a small state. Yeah. You don't have the privilege of going right to the front of the line. You have to move around a lot. And I did. And my wife, and I have had to move 11 times. To even have an opportunity to be at a place like Ohio State. And, a big part of that is your family, and kids being the new kid in class. And so that's one of the reasons why I fight so hard. There's two reasons why. One, to win games here is to continue to have an impact on young people. And then two, for my family, I don't want to have to move them again, because I know what that's like. And that's part of this profession, as you guys know, and it's the same way being a player.
When you brought up Urban Meyer in this situation, Urban's also obviously had an incredible career as a college football head coach.
Sure.
And when you take over for him at Ohio State, what was your process of Urban Meyer's a legend. And so for you to take over for him, how did you earn the respect of these players as quickly as you did?
Well, it was very difficult to follow in someone's footsteps like that. I remember one of the first weeks I became the head coach here, I walked down the hall right here, and there's pictures of Woody Hayes and Jim Tressel and Earl Bruce and John Cooper and Urban Meyer, and then there's a picture of me, and I'm like, what in the hell is this? You just like pinching yourself, But I've always kind of had the mentality, and a coach of mine, Dana Bible, used to say, "Well, why not you? Why can't it be you?" That kind of has to be your mentality. But when you're in these type of situations, you live in the moment. You just try to do the best you can in that moment. You can't worry about what's coming tomorrow. You can't worry about what happened yesterday. You just do the best you can right then in that moment. And you trust the people that are around you. And so there was a lot of infrastructure in place here, and a lot of people said, how are you going to follow up with Urban Meyer? I mean, 7-0 in the rivalry game, won a national championship, unbelievable success. And people kept saying, what if you lose? What if you do? And I always said, what if I don't? This is an unbelievable opportunity to coach at a place like Ohio State. And so just tried to be myself the best I could, kept a lot of the same things that he did here, but then over time, put your own spin on it and your own flavor on it. You have to be yourself, even though there's a lot of things, people in place, culture, core values, philosophies that we continued through. And so it's very different than if you were to start your own program. If I was to become a head coach tomorrow at another school, you start from scratch. You hire everybody from scratch. It's a different transition and something that, quite honestly, I had to kind of figure out on the run a little bit. and because that all kind of happened fast.
The 2021 Nebraska Cornhuskers, are they the greatest 3-win team you've ever played against? Because if you remember correctly, I'll remind you, I think we were on a game-winning drive and the refs kind of stole the game, but we were kind of set to beat you guys a couple years ago when you came.
That was 2 years ago. Yeah, I would say it was probably the best 3-win team maybe that I was around in the Big Ten. That was a good team. I mean, on defense, I thought they were very good.
That's all we needed, boys.
Yeah.
Needed.
I mean, how many?
I'm really upset you answered it like that.
No, but they
You
were.
just gave Will all the firepower
Good
in the
on
world.
defense.
We were a solid team.
Yeah, I mean, how many games they lose by a touchdown or less?
I mean, the score differential throughout the entire season was 0.
Yeah.
So every loss that they had, all 9, they were within 1 score.
That was a hard game. Yeah, we didn't play well. We had just played.
We didn't
Penn
play well
State,
either. Yeah, we didn't play well.
in an emotional, tough game, and that was Jackson. I remember he made a huge play. He made a guy miss and scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then that was a battle.
Yeah.
I mean,
They,
that's the
I
thing
love
about
that.
the Big Ten, especially when you're playing 9 conference games. There's no gimmies.
Mhm.
They're hard.
Well, there's a
Yes.
couple. Rutgers, Maryland, Michigan State,
There's a lot of good coaches. That's all I
Purdue.
know.
Iowa,
Are they
I'm just telling you.
Nebraska.
coaches? Hey, are there some gimmies in the Big Ten? There's some gimmies.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. There's good coaches and good programs. And I just continually see these programs getting better and better and better. I just maybe there were a few years ago. I just don't see that as much anymore. I think there's really good coaches, and when we get together on calls or we get together at some of our coaches' meetings,
Mhm.
really good minds, really good coaches. They're really sharp in how they handle their business, and I got a lot of respect for everybody in the conference.
We've got to get the national title back to the Big Ten.
It has to happen.
It has to happen. We were trying to
Legitimately, when you guys were in it, we were legit we were going for Michigan and Ohio State in the national championship. When Michigan lost to TCU, I was watching you guys hoping you would win because the SEC is getting too full of themselves.
Well,
Would you-
it makes me sick every day to think about it, and just going back through, you think about 19, about this last game. I mean, you just go through.
Brother, I know you guys would have beat the
over.
brakes off of TCU too.
Well, it's one play here, one play there, but it doesn't happen, and so you have to own it, and it's hard. It's hard to take, but you got to regroup and learn from it, and like you said, keep swinging. I think that the 12-team playoff will be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. If the first 4 teams get a bye, second 4
and home
teams
field advantage.
can get a home field advantage.
That's cool.
Playing the Big
That'll be
Ten, that could be a game in December on the road. So there's a lot to be determined here. Now that's 2 years away, but looking forward to see what that looks like.
I think you were about to ask a really good question, but I forgot what that question was
I
going to be.
think I forgot it too.
because I could see it lighting up. You talked about
It wasn't going to be like a really good one. It was I think it was okay. If Michigan beats TCU,
yes, that was the question.
would you have rooted for Michigan in the national title?
No.
Okay, hold on. Before you elaborate, this is what you need to think about here. We need to put our swords down for a second, because if Michigan wins that game, it's not Michigan. We're thinking now Big Ten conference wise.
Best conference in the country.
It's kind of like a Game of Thrones situation. Like let's ally up for a second.
You watch Game of Thrones, or did you?
I've watched some.
Okay, so you ally up for just a touch. Make sure we get the trophy in there, and then we can all go back to our civil war within our conference.
Right.
However, like the SEC is so damn full of themselves. They're like, we're Vols guys, we're Bama guys, we're South Carolina. Everyone's fighting for their own fight down there. We need to band together as a conference and say, like, if you guys were in it, I'm rooting for Ohio State. I want Ohio State to win because ultimately,
the bragging
I want
rights.
Michigan to take it from you, right? You could somehow get around that being like, you want Michigan to win the national championship if you guys weren't also in it, because ultimately you want to take it from Michigan. Can we agree on that?
Do you want us to be the best conference in the country?
That's all we're asking.
That's what
That's
you
all we're
have to ask
asking.
yourself.
I think if you say that for sure, we have to be the best conference in the country. And I do think.
Yeah, but could you just say,
hang on, let
because
him-
of the situation, I would root for Michigan?
I cannot say that. I literally.
We need the clip
Yeah,
so
just
badly.
please, God.
I physically can't say it.
Yeah.
What were you
But
going
I
to
do.
say?
Well, no, I just think that adding UCLA and USC really is really a game changer in so many different ways. It's so much different than certainly when you played. You think about like it's just not natural, right? It's not a natural rivalry. It's going to be very untraditional, but those are 2 very good teams. And so as you think about adding those teams, and then in 24, they haven't finalized it all yet, but going away from the divisions, and then think about it. We could play the rivalry game. You could play Penn State. You could play USC all in one season. That's quite a schedule. It's just very different now. And so I think we have the capability of being the best conference in America. And I think the addition of those two teams, based on how things play out moving forward, and then with the 12-team playoff, getting more teams into the playoff, I think it gives us a great chance.
Does adding the two California teams open up anything recruiting-wise that you think about, like recruiting better in California? Because obviously you guys have the brand of Ohio State, period.
I think right now probably it's about the same, but I think as we start to play games out there and, they start to travel out this way, I think it will.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the recruits quite yet feel that, now we've played in the Rose Bowl twice in like the last 5 years, I guess. And so a lot of those guys are familiar with us, but the more I think they see the Big Ten teams coming through the California area, I think it'll open up. Okay. But I still don't think that that's going to be like a recruiting hotbed for the Big Ten. I think it's still going to be, the Midwest area will still be our foundation.
A lot of cats up here, Ohio in particular.
Ohio,
Pennsylvania,
sure.
Missouri.
Well,
Missouri.
You get some like diamonds in the rough in Missouri.
Oh yeah,
fair.
Diamonds in the rough, but I wouldn't say it's a hotbed for football. Not like Arizona.
When you say hotbed, and I think about it a little bit more, I can say that's fair.
That's big of you. That shows growth with Will Compton.
Yeah.
What do you with you guys adding UCLA and USC to the conference in 2024? Where do you see the NCAA going? Because this is what I see.
Mm-hmm.
I see SEC making an ultimate conference, you guys making an ultimate conference, and then essentially branching away, getting away from the NCAA and becoming your own league. And in return, kind of becoming like, this is where you want to go if you want to go to the NFL conferences.
I think that there's so many different discussions that are happening right now of things like that, and it's like, what's coming next? I think as we just sit here right now, I think we all know things are going to continue to change because of everything that's going on in America, right? Whether it's the NIL, the transfer portal, this conference realignment, we know that if there's going to continue to be lawsuits down the road, so things are going to change. Where it goes, I really don't know. I do think that the way that college football is right now, there's nothing really you can compare to it, right? There's nothing else out there you'd be like, okay, follow this model, because it doesn't exist. And I think if we can find a way to look more like some of the models that are out there, I mean, obviously the NFL is a model. It's different because this is collegiate. It's not the professional. But the more we can find something to grab onto to say, okay, let's run college football something like this, so we have more comparisons. Because what happens now is there's just a lot of hard feelings between schools. There's inequities, whether it's the players, and different folks and lawsuits about, all the things that go on across college sports, where in other sports like the NFL, they have rules in place. They have players associations. They have collective bargaining agreements. They have all these different things in place that you can look to say, okay, there's precedence here. Right now, we're in a world where there's no precedence.
It's the Wild West.
It's wild. And so that's what creates hard feelings. And I think for all of us, sometimes as, coaches and even our players, you're not too sure what to think. And I think that's probably the hardest part right now. So I think any of that stuff is possible because we don't really know what's coming next.
It seems as though the line's getting grayer and grayer, because when we were playing
back in our day, there was like dumb rules, like you could have a bagel, but you couldn't have cream cheese. Right. Like there was all these crazy things that the NCAA would put in. And now every other conference basically gets to do what the SEC did, and that's pay players one way or another. And so you kind of just see it going over and over. Eventually, like, we're essentially turning into a minor leagues of the NFL. Are we not? There, yeah.
Right?
I think it's a little right now because, again,
there's nothing to kind of police it.
Literally tomorrow, if they want to, like true binding agreement. I know we're kind of just talking to each other.
All right, that's what the best podcasts are.
Anyways.
Do you think, from an NIL standpoint, I know the team itself can't be involved with that, but you guys got a pretty good NIL situation set up? Got these guys, some accountants and stuff like that, 401ks.
Well, so the great thing for us is the city of Columbus. There's 2 million people here, 30,000 businesses. So we're really positioned well to be able to have our guys take advantage of name, image, and likeness, because business right across the street. There's so many things in place here. And then certainly with the fan base and people throughout Ohio and throughout the country, there's a lot of people that want to help. And so our guys are very visible and so there's a lot of opportunity for them. The way that name, image, and likeness was designed for, and I think a lot of our guys have benefited from that.
when it comes to, I think it's a good segue. Like, how do you sell guys? Obviously, Ohio State's a big brand.
Yep.
I'm willing to lay down the sword on that. It's a massive brand. How do you get guys from a California, from a Texas, from a Florida, and sell them on the idea of Ohio State?
Kind of what we were talking about before. A big part is you come here to win championships, and you come here for development. You come here, to have an opportunity to not only develop as a football player, but also life after football. You have so much, such a network out there that you can tap into. That's a big part of it, is finding out what else do you want to do when you're done playing football. I talk to our guys all the time about that. You guys got done playing, you're not just going to sit on the couch and hang out. You got to figure out what's next, and you probably had no idea it was going to be a podcast, and you wanted to get into broadcasting. Maybe you did know that, but I think we talked to our guys about is they actually have an opportunity to figure that out while they're in college, where a lot of families, I'm sure you guys had family members where they had to do something out of necessity. They didn't have the opportunity to think, oh, this is what I'd like to do. Obviously you guys enjoy doing this, so you get an opportunity to do it after careers in the NFL. Well, that's the goal. They come in with careers in the NFL, and then what do you want to do when you're done? Hopefully you can find your passion, and that way you don't feel like you're going to work every day. There are people in your family, people in my family, they had to go to work because they had to pay bills. It's not a necessity. The goal is for them to be able to find their passion so that they don't really have to work a day in their life. They're finding something that they like to do. And so that combined with obviously the football platform that you have here and the ability to play for national championships. When you walk in the building right here, you enjoy being in the building every day. You enjoy grinding, getting after it every day, competing, but also being part of a family and then also the development part. Being able to develop and be in a environment where that there's a lot of similarities to being in Columbus to being in the NFL.
Yeah, it's an NFL factory here.
It is, playing in the big lights, the expectations, our guys walk downtown. I mean, they're going to get noticed.
Yeah.
It's so you have to move a little different, and you learn that at a young age when you're here in Columbus.
Mm-hmm. Mitch, you are a massive Ohio State fan. You have anything before we let Coach Day go? Mitch asked, when his players leave, what do you want them to walk away with?
I'm sure you do. Well, I think the first thing you want them to walk away with is, a feeling that they miss it, that they want to come back because there was a brotherhood here. That when you leave, you're like leaving a family, and our goal is to maximize these guys and help them reach their dreams and goals, but at the same time, like love them and put our arms around them, help them the best they can. And so you want them to have a great experience. Know that they got challenged, they got pushed, and it's our job to make them see things they can't see, do things they wouldn't do on their own, hear things that maybe they can't, don't want to hear, but that's part of coaching, that's part of parenting, that's part of, mentoring. But also know that they maximize themselves on the field, had a great experience, and want to come back and give back and be part of the program.
I think it's time. In the Big Ten, there's multiple coaches in the Big Ten.
Oh.
If you had to fight one of those coaches, what coach would it be?
You got to take me down this road.
And why is it Jim Harbaugh?
Would it even be?
Who would he fight? And why is it Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can tell you our culture is, if you say fight, you see fight all over the facility. You can see it right there. Fight to become the best version of yourself. So we're fighting every day. We're fighting against every opponent.
You take Matt Rule?
I work with Matt Rule.
He could take
Really?
Matt Rule. Hey, he could take Matt Rule.
Oh, Temple. At Temple?
Temple. The first year in 2005, it was Al Golden's first year there. We won one game.
Oh, yeah?
I think we're the only team to ever lose back-to-back games 62-0.
Oh, my God.
So,
Is there anything we have to look forward to with Coach Rule at Nebraska?
he's great. He's great. He's a really good coach, really sharp. He'll do great things. He's a lot of respect for Matt. He's a really good coach. So I haven't fought him before, so I'm not sure how that would go. But
On the fighting thing, who do you think you'd have the most trouble with in the Big Ten? Just on stature alone. Because you got some shit to you now.
yeah, I would say probably, who would be PJ would be hard because the guy's got so much energy. He's got a high motor. Guy would feel like he would just keep going, coming at you. You know what I mean? You have to have a good plan to
You
choke him out or something.
have to end him.
Yeah, it'd be hard.
Because he's going to keep coming back.
Keep coming.
Next day in, day out.
He's got a lot of energy.
Day in, day out.
He's another great coach and a great guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Coach, thanks a lot, man. This has been
thank you
awesome.
for sitting down with us.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Hopefully we did all right. All right, good deal.
How you guys
got the
think,
thumbs
man?
up. We got the thumbs
Appreciate
up.
you guys.
But Coach,
Yeah.
this was awesome.
Yeah, good luck
man.
with
Thank you
everything,
so
guys.
much.
Yeah, I appreciate you. All right. You got it, man, of course.